We are creating this responsive mini portfolio website using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It is a mobile-first design that looks great on all screen sizes. Up top, we have a light mode and a dark mode. We have our profile picture, name, title, link to our GitHub, LinkedIn, and email, an experience section showcasing our background, a button where we can download our CV, and a contact me button that forwards an email to your desired address. Then we have an overview over our portfolio with a hover effect over our projects. If we click one, we are taken to our project repo. If we click the skills button here, we are taken to our skills section where we are showcasing both our front-end and our back-end skills. And you can add as many skills here as you want. In the bottom, we have a nice footer copyright, and everything looks great on both light mode and dark mode. We will learn HTML, CSS, and JavaScript in this tutorial, as well as how to use Google Fonts to add a custom font to our website, and use Netlify to put our website online for free. If you're ready to create the best responsive mini portfolio website on YouTube and you want to impress future employers with your portfolio, then let's get started. Let's create a new folder, and I'm just going to create on the desktop here. I'm going to call it mini portfolio, and then I'm going to open VS Code, which is our code editor, and I'm going to drag it into like this, and that is going to open our folder in our Explorer here. Then I am going to create a new file. I'm going to call that index.html, and I'm going to type exclamation mark, hit enter, and that is going to give me a boilerplate HTML starting point. I am going to change this document title to mini portfolio. You can call that whatever you want. And then I'm going to go live down here. If you don't have that, you're going to go to the side tab here. You're going to go to the extensions. You're going to search for live server, and you're going to install this one that has 38 million views. Install that. And while we are here, you're also going to look for prettier, and that is going to code format, remove empty spaces, make the code a bit prettier, like the name implies, like I am using during this tutorial. So if you are wondering why my code jumps around when I save, it's because of this extension. So install that if you want to have this similar code as mine. Back in our HTML, let us write just hello here, and then hit this go live button down below. And here it has opened a browser with our website here. If I update now, let's see, goodbye, we have our new text here. So when I save, live server is automatically updating our website here that we are running locally. Now let's go up to the view in VS Code and hit word wrap. So we can see all our code, close the Explorer so we see more of our code. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a section in our body. So let's remove this text and create a section. A section is used to divide content in our HTML. And this section is going to have a class that we are going to use to style in our style sheet. And it's going to be a hero class. So this is going to be where our profile picture is and our buttons are. And inside of this section, we are going to add an image. And that image is going to have our actual toggle button. And that image is going to be our toggle button that we can see here in our finished portfolio website. We see this toggle button that hits the light and dark mode. So we are going to create that image now. We are going to give that an ID of toggle theme. We're going to use that in our JavaScript later, this ID. We are going to give it a class, a styling class of theme.btn for button. We are going to give it a source in a moment. We're going to give it an alt text of theme space icon, like so. So now we are going to actually link to our image in our source here, in our source attribute. We don't have an image here, obviously, so we are gonna go in the description of this video and you're gonna see a GitHub repo. You're gonna open that, and that is gonna take you to a page like this. You're gonna click this green code button, you're gonna download this zip, and once you have downloaded that, you can drag this asset folder into your project, and you're gonna copy that, and then you're gonna have all the images that we are using in this project ready for you to use. So obviously you can, this is the profile picture, you can put your own profile picture here. So let's close that, close the Explorer. So now we can add our image here. So we're gonna link to our asset folder, and then inside of that assets folder, we are gonna write theme, and then we have some options here in VS Code, and we're gonna choose the light one. By default, all the light themed icons are gonna be the ones that we use when we initially visit the page, because we're gonna initially have light mode on. And then when we switch to dark mode, this is gonna change to theme dark. And the similar for the other icons. As we can see, the image is very large. We're gonna change that in our CSS later. Under this image, we are gonna create a div. And a div is a catch-all element, which we use to basically encapsulate other elements. So it's very good for using flexbox, which is a styling property. It's very good to kind of divide content in ways that we can use later when we are wanting to give it a specific style or purpose. So in here, we're gonna create another div. Actually, in the first div, we're gonna give it a class of hero-pic. That's gonna be our hero picture here. And the second div is gonna have a class of inner-circle. And then under this div, we are gonna create another image. That's gonna have a source to the assets folder, and you see as soon as I start writing something, it gives me a option, and then I can use the arrows here to choose, and that saves us a lot of typing. And I'm gonna choose the Mason Wilkes. That's also the photographer that has put this picture on Unsplash, so credits to him for making this picture available for us. It's also very large, as we can see. We're also going to fix that in our CSS. But for now, we see that we have both images, so it's working. In the alt, I'm just going to write his name, Mason Wilkes. And to explain a bit what's going on here, if we look at the finished profile here, so this is obviously the image of the person. And then we have the inner circle here. That's the white line that changes to a dark line here that we have kind of encapsulating the image. And then the hero-pic div, which is basically the parent of these two elements here, that is used to basically hold this image in place. We are using that to give these two, the inner circle and the image, kind of the same layout. Then under our div here, we are going to continue and we are going to give it another div. And this div is going to have a class of hero info. And inside of here, we're going to give it an H1, which is heading 1, the biggest header. Mason Wilkes, that's going to be our title here, or our name. Let's see, have we gotten that? If we scroll all the way down here, we have. I have also zoomed in a lot. Let me zoom out. And then I'm gonna give it an H2, and this is gonna be our title, front-end developer, or back-end, or UX designer, whatever you want. H2, and then under the H2 we're gonna write a div. It's gonna have a class of logo, container, and that's gonna contain our logos, naturally. we're going to use an A element here that is a link element, and that's going to link to where? It's going to link to, in this case HTTPS :/ and I'm just going to link to github.com/. Normally I would link, then add my profile info behind here so it goes to my GitHub, so please do that for yourself. And then inside of the A element, I am going to add an image, because the link is going to be the image itself. And the source for that is going to be in the assets folder. We're going to start writing LinkedIn. We're going to choose the light one. And for the alt text, we're going to say GitHub logo. And it's very important that you keep this the same, because we're going to use that later in our JavaScript to switch between the light and the dark version of this image. So if you are changing this, make sure to also change the name in the JavaScript later. But the easiest is just to keep it the same. So let's copy paste this A element down, target the whole thing, hold Shift Alt and down, and you're gonna press down twice, and that's gonna copy the whole code twice down. If I scroll down, I see I have 3 big, enormous LinkedIn icons. I don't know why I said LinkedIn here. We're gonna go GitHub for the first one, like so. We're gonna say LinkedIn indeed for the second one. And same here, LinkedIn. That is correct. And then the last one is going to be actually not an HTTPS, because the last one is gonna actually send us to our email. So we are gonna use something called mail to. That is an inbuilt HTML method, mail to ABC, and this is where you write after the colon your email at gmail.com. So this is just an example email here, and save that, and that's gonna be email light instead. And same here, email. Don't worry that they're different sizes, we're gonna give them the same size in the CSS later. And that concludes our hero section. The next we're gonna do is add another section. And this section we're gonna give a class of experience, like so. Inside of here we're gonna give an h2, and we're gonna say years front end. Actually, let's see, 2 years front end, like we see here. But we need to split that up because we see we have this vertically. It's on its row. So the way we do that, first of all, we are gonna say BR, which stands for break. And that you see that breaks whatever is on the left and the right side. So after BR, a new line starts. So we're gonna give it 2 BRs, like so. And a BR is a self-closing element. You see H2 has an opening and a closing tag. This one only has itself. It's just one tag. So there we go. That's how we get them on each their line. In addition to that, we see that we have our 3, our 5, and our 4 here, our numbers, a bit more bold. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to encapsulate the number here with something called the B tag, which just stands for bold. So we're going to write a B tag after the H2. We're going to put the 2 inside, like so, and we can remove this space, like so. Now we just need to copy this H2 2 times, Shift Alt and down twice. And then the next one we are gonna write is gonna be 5 years, and then here's the education. So I'm gonna say Bachelor's of Science and Masters of Science. Like so, you add your own education here. And then for the last one, it's for satisfied employers or clients or whatever you wish. Then we are done with this section. We are gonna then add these two buttons here, the download CV and contact me. That is gonna be in its own section. That is gonna be or have a class of call to action CTA. Inside of the CTA, we are gonna have another link element. It's gonna link to our asset folder and our example CV. We are gonna give it an attribute of download to tell basically and we don't need this, we can remove that, just download. That is gonna tell the browser that when we click this, we wanna download this PDF here or whatever file this is. So you can just switch that file here with your own CV. Then inside of the A element, we're gonna add a button with a class of btn and also this other class called download btn. So you can give classes, you can put as many classes here as you want, and they're gonna be separated by a space. So this is one class and this is another class, and that's very useful to give. You can give many elements the button class, but then if you want to give this particular button its own kind of styling, you can give it another class in addition, and that's what we're doing here. And then inside of the button, we are going to write download CV. If we scroll down, we see that we have our download CV button here. And if I hit it, we see that it downloads the example file here, which I've downloaded many times, as you can see. Then let's copy this button down because we need the other button, and that's gonna say contact me. That is also gonna be a mail to. It's gonna send a mail to us, to our email address, abc@gmail.com, and that is gonna not have the download attribute here. And that's all we need there. Now, if I click this contact me, we see that the email service is opened. Then the next thing after this section is adding another section, and it is gonna have a class of portfolio skills, like so. And inside of here, we are gonna add a div with a class of btn background. Now we are creating this section here. So scrolling down, we want to add inside, after the div here, or actually inside the div, we want to add two buttons. So first button is going to have a class of btn2, and it's also going to have a class of active btn, because we see here in the finished portfolio the active button has a white background. That's what the active class is going to do. It's also going to have an ID of portfolio and btn, and then inside of the button we're going to write portfolio, like so. That is popping up there. Great. Then let's copy paste the button down, Shift Alt down. Button 2, it's not going to be active by default. This one is going to be called the skills button, and we're going to have text saying skills, and that is showing up as well. Then we're done with that section and on to the next one. Section class portfolio. Now we're creating the portfolio section that we see here with the different projects. Inside here, actually, we're also going to give it an ID to target later in our JavaScript. ID portfolio, inside here div, and class of wrapper and project wrapper. And inside of this div, we're going to create a link element. It is going to link to GitHub. Let's see, let's write it correct. HTTPS. And let's see, ://github.com/. And inside of the A element, we are going to create an image. And that's going to lead to assets and project 1. And for the alt text, we're going to write project 1. So the projects are simply an image with a link to our GitHub repo, or the finished project deployed, whatever you want to link to. Then we are going to copy the wrapper 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Shift Alt down. We're going to keep the wrapper project wrapper class as is, and then we're just going to change. Here, obviously, you can put your own link to the projects you want to highlight. I'm just going to keep it the same for everyone. And I'm going to change the pictures. This is also where you can exchange them for your own picture. But I'm just writing 2, 3, and project 4. Save that, and scrolling, we see that we have the different pictures. Great. Then after this section, we're going to add the skills section. So that would be, when we click skills, we get our front-end and back-end skills. We are going to hide the skills section by default. As we can see here, it's not showing up when we load the website. But then when we click skills, it shows up and we hide the portfolio section. So that's going to be section with a class of skills and an ID of skills. And inside, we are going to write a div with a class of wrapper. And inside that wrapper, we are going to have h3 for the title, so front end. And then under that front end, we're going to write an article, which is nice to keep a list of items that we're going to have, our skills. It's going to have a class of front end skills. And then inside of the article, it's just going to be paragraph elements saying what skills we want to display here. So I'm just going to copy them down a couple of times. HTML, CSS, let's say less Sass and JavaScript. Also TypeScript. Copy down a couple more times. We have React here, as well as Angular, and also Material UI. Okay, I think that's all the ones we had here. Looks like it. And they are showing up correctly. Great. What a nice, aesthetically pleasing portfolio. We're soon done with the HTML, so we'll get to be styling it shortly. Then let's copy everything in our wrapper here. Let's copy the whole wrapper down. So like that, and we're just going to change it to backend. Like so. Change this class to backend skills. And then change them to backend skills. Node.js Next one, express.js and APIs, database, CRUD, Git, just Git, and GraphQL, as well as web servers. And we're just going to delete the last two. Save that. Also looking good. And then the last thing we need is, after our section here, to add our footer. And inside the footer, it's going to be a simple paragraph. The way we add our copy symbol here, this C here, is quite simple. We just write and copy and hit save, and we see that it shows up in our HTML. That's the basically how you write it in order to get the HTML symbol for it. And then we write our name or whatever we want, like so. And that is pretty much everything we need in our HTML. Let's open our Explorer and let's close our asset folder. We're going to create a new file, call it style.css, hit save, and then we're going to go back into our HTML, and we are going to go under our title. We are going to link to a style sheet, and then we're going to link to our style sheet, our path. So that's style, and we see it recommended here, style.css. So now we have linked our HTML and our CSS, and it's going to listen to what we are, what classes we are using here. So the fun thing with dark mode and light mode portfolios is that we get to use variables, CSS variables, which are quite powerful and very useful ways to basically be very efficient with our styling properties, especially colors and sizes and things like that, the things that we reuse a lot. And here with a dark mode, light mode, it's obviously the colors. So instead of hard coding the colors for, let's say, our buttons here in blue, instead of writing blue, we are writing actually variables. We're going to create variables that hold blue when it's on the light mode, but then it switches to, or actually this is a bad example because it stays blue, but the background, let's say. The background is going to be white on the light mode and black on the dark mode. And instead of hard coding white color and black color, we are simply coding a variable that is going to be called a primary background color. So I'm going to show you how this works. So for our light mode, we start by writing :root, and this is basically the root file. That's basically our default website. And here we're going to create our light mode. I'm going to copy or comment out that, Control-K-U if you're on Windows. And then we are going to create our first variable here by writing -- primary font and : actually that's our font, we haven't downloaded that yet. Let's move on. Primary background color, and here we are going to, let me just copy out this one for now. Primary background color, that is gonna be #FFF 6 times. In other words, that's as white as it can be. And then let's create our body or target our body here. And let's move back to our actual web page so we see what's going on. In our body, we are going to give it a background color. And as I said, instead of just saying white here or saying hard coding FFF, here, let me change that to something else so we can see it, red. Here we see that the red background color is applied to the whole web page. And instead of doing that though, because now we can't change this very easily, we'll have to go in and change every single thing we add the color to, which is going to add up throughout the portfolio. So now instead of doing that, we're going to give it the variable that we created here. And that is going to be var, and then parentheses, and then saying the name that we had previously defined. And now when I save that, you see it turns white. And now if I change the variable value to red or to black or to blue, purple, it is changing the background color. So that is very useful because then we can just focus on changing the variable colors when changing between the light mode and the dark mode, instead of changing all the colors individually throughout our code. So very useful. CSS variables. So now let's get back to our font that we want to actually download. I want you to go to fonts.google.com in your browser, and I want you to search for Poppins. And then it's going to show up 18 styles, and we're going to target that. And then we are going to scroll down and we're going to target basically everything. We're going to take and select all these different, we don't select the italic ones, but all the regular ones. 800, 900, there we go. And then we click this view selected families. We see all the targeted ones. And then if we scroll down, we see this link. We're just going to copy that, go into our HTML, and above or under our title, we're just going to paste that in there, like so. This is basically retrieving the font from Google when we are loading our web page. Then we're going to go back into our style sheet, and we're going to go to the Google font again, Google, the browser. And we're going to copy this CSS rule, like so. And we are going to give, let's comment out, Control KU. And we're going to give this another, we're going to give the primary font what we just copied. So we're going to put it in there. We're going to remove the font family, like so. So now we have saved the font as a variable as well. We're not changing that, but it's also a nice addition and a nice thing to get used to. So in our body now, we can give it a font family, and we can give it a variable, and we can give it a primary font. And now let me just copy out that so we can see the difference. Save, and copy. And then we see Poppins has been added. If I hit right click, inspect, and we see I'm over the H2 here, we see that the font family is primary font. Now let's add the rest of the variables. We don't have that many, so the next one is going to be primary text color. That is going to be 0 6 times, or black. Next one is going to be secondary color, and that is going to be hashtag 575757. Save that. And next one is going to be button, BTN, hover color, actually button background color. And that is going to be hashtag 2196 F3. That's our blue for the button. We can copy that down, Shift Alt down, and the next one is going to be called CTA hover color, and that is going to be hashtag 167BCE. Let's copy that down again, and this one is going to be called BTN background light, and that's going to be hashtag and then 6 E's. Now we have our light mode ready, and we are just going to add our dark theme as well. So let's copy that down like so, and we're just going to give that a new comment, dark mode, and we're going to keep, actually we're going to change the variable names here. So we're going to give it a dark in front of everything here. A cool hack here, target the two dashes here, and you're going to hit Control D, and that's going to target the next ones that are identical. So that way we can target all of these. You're going to hit left button, left arrow, and now you can kind of edit all of them at the same time. So we're going to write dark and then dash, and now we've updated all the names. We're going to remove the primary font, we don't need it. We are going to give this one, instead of FFF, 2222222 6 times. Next one is going to be FFF 6 times. And then it's going to be A2. Then this one is going to be 1E88 E5, and dark CTA hover color is going to be 0D5E8C, and then this one is going to stay the same. Then before the body, we are going to add our dark theme class that we are going to be adding with our JavaScript, and then we're going to target our primary background color. Actually, let's just copy these up here and paste them down here, and then we're going to paste these names we just made. Actually, let's just write it in variable like so, and then we're gonna copy this name, put it in there. Now we have one that is ready, and we're just gonna copy that and paste it in over the other ones. So now we're using the variables, the dark mode variables we just made. And now we're just gonna edit the names. That's gonna be text color. This is gonna be secondary color. This is going to be button background color. This is gonna be call to action hover color. And then BTN background light. Oops, and then it's dark in front of all of these. Dark. Make sure to add that. And dark. There we go. That looks correct. Now we can move on to the body. So let's add, as we can see here, we have some margins here. We want to remove that so that we can control exactly how things are placed. We have our font family, we have our background color. We are gonna add color to the actual text so that we can change it to white in the dark mode. The variable is going to be primary text color, which is black, so it's not showing any different for now. Then we are going to target our theme button, which is all the way up here. Finally, we are getting to make them a bit smaller. So position relative first, then we want to say left 8.5 REM. One REM is 16 pixels. It is just a different way of writing sizes. Then we're going to target our H1, our H2, our H3, and our paragraph, and we are going to give them all a margin of 0. And then we're going to give it a cursor of default. Because as you can see here in the finished version, when I hover over any text, it's not giving me the editing cursor that you see when you hover over some text sometimes. This is hidden here, and we get a pointer when we are hovering over something that you can click on, but that we haven't added yet in our portfolio. So as you can see here, I'm targeting several classes at once, and I'm giving them all the same styling. This is to avoid writing everything multiple times. Instead of writing H1 margin 0 and then writing, H2 margin 0 as well, and then etc., because this would create a lot of redundant and repetitive code, and it would create a very long CSS style sheet in a big project. We're lucky we're not writing that many lines, but still, this is a very useful habit to get into when learning CSS. What this technique is called of not repeating your CSS code is called dry, which stands literally for don't repeat yourself. And we are going to be using that in this whole style sheet. And it's going to be a bit different if you have watched some of my other videos where we are going section by section and writing the CSS code. So starting, for example, in the hero section and writing all the code one by one. Now it's going to look maybe a bit messy for you if you're not used to it, but actually it's much more efficient, because then when you are adding a margin, when you see margin 0 here, you know that this is the only place where margin 0 is added. So you can quite effectively target multiple things at once, and it's very effective when you have a lot of content. So next up, we're going to target our article, and you're going to see this here, because we're going to add a lot of different elements. Footer next, then hero, then logo container, and then we separate all of them with a comma, and then experience, and then call to action, and then we have portfolio skills, and then we have btn background, and then we have portfolio, and then we have skills. Let's not forget the dot to target our classes. And then finally we can add our display flex. So as you can see, this is a bit of an extreme. This is the longest kind of multiple classes and elements that we are targeting, but we're giving them all display flex. I have a separate video on Flexbox if you want to watch that right here. But basically this is targeting all the elements we want to give Flexbox to at once. So it's very useful. Next up, let's target our hero, our portfolio, and our skills. And we are going to give it a flex direction of column, which is By default, it's in a row like this, 1, 2, 3, but we want to give it a column like this, 1, 2, 3. Then let's target our hero, our button BTN background, our portfolio, and our skills, and we're going to give them align items to the center. Then let's target our theme button, our logo container. Let's again not forget our dot, logo container, and then the A elements inside of that. And then our logo container and then the image inside of that. And we're going to give it a height of 1.5 rem. And we are starting to get closer to our finished portfolio with a bit less intense and huge things. So let's decrease the screen size here to 100%, starting to see a bit better. Then we are going to target our hero. We are going to target our experience. We are going to target our wrapper. And we're going to text align our text to the center. Then we're going to target our article, and our hero class, and our logo container, and our portfolio, and our skills. And we are going to give it a gap of 1 rem. So that's giving the gap between things that are flexed. So there's a gap between these. As you can see, if I inspect here, actually not between them. Let's see. Between these, there should be a gap. Here we see. Logo container, gap 1 rem. That's the one we are giving here. And these 3 icons you see are flexed with a gap between them here and here. Now let's make our hero picture a bit smaller, Hero pic. We're going to give it a width of 8 rem as well as a height of 8 rem. Zoom up. That's getting closer. We're going to give it a border radius of 50%. We're going to say overflow hidden to hide whatever is going above the width and height and the border radius. So the border radius 50% basically makes an element a circle. And then we are going to create that white inner circle here that we have. We're going to target inner circle. We are going to say the content inside here is just going to be empty. The position is going to be absolute. And the top position, or the offset, is going to be 0.1 rem. So not a whole lot. Just adjusting the thickness, border thickness. We're going to copy that down, and we're going to change this to the left, to the, let's see, bottom, and to the right. Then we're going to add a border radius of 50%. And a border of 0.18 rem, solid variable, and then we're gonna give it the primary background color. We are starting to see our circle here, and we're gonna give it a Z index, which decides if it's in front or behind things. by giving it a z index of 1, it should be in front of most things. We forgot to give our hero pick a position of relative, like so. And that put the inner circle inside of the hero pick, because when it has a position of relative, then the child, let's see if we can find it in our HTML here, hero info, we have gone too far, here we go. So the hero pick has a position of relative, and the inner circle, when it has a position of absolute, it is taking the absolute within hero pick. And then that's how we get our nice white circle here. Then let's target our hero pick and then the image inside. Also, let's add our wrapper and then the images inside there. And we're going to give them a width of 100%, starting to be closer. Then let's target our hero pick and then the image. And then it's going to give it a height of 100%. We're going to give it an object fit to fit it, make it cover the entire circle without distorting the image. We're going to object position it to the top with 0.4 rem, and then to the right with minus 0.3 rem. So these are adjustments from the top and the right, which is putting the face in the middle. And then we also want to transform, because it's very far, you don't see his face, so we want to transform, we want to zoom in by using the scale 1.9, actually it's 1.9. And there we have zoomed into his face. Let's just zoom in here so we see what we are doing, like so. So starting to look better. Let's target our hero info and then the H1. That's our name. And also our H2, let's add that. And we're going to give it a font weight of 400. Then let's target our articles and then the paragraph inside, as well as the hero info and the H2 inside. And then, what is wrong here? Okay, we just haven't added anything yet. We want to add the color, and we're using variables, of course, secondary color, which gives this a bit of a grayish color. Then let's target our hero info and the H2, and we are going to give it a font size of 1 rem, and we're going to give it a margin of 0, 0, 1 rem, and 0. And let's not forget our semicolon here. When we use for numbers, we are giving the margin in the top, in the right, in the bottom, and in the left, instead of writing margin top, margin left, margin right, etc., etc. Next, we are going to target our footer, as well as our logo container, as well as our experience, and also our call to action, and also our portfolio skills, and lastly our BTN background. And we're going to justify content to the center, making things centered vertically, horizontally. Then we're going to target our experience. We're going to give it a margin of auto. We are going to give it a margin top of 0.4 rem. We are going to give it a max width of 20 rem, like so. Looks a bit smooshed here together because I'm zoomed in, but actually it's not. They don't have the gap yet, that's why. Then we're gonna target the experience and the bold inside. We're gonna give it a font weight of 500, and then we're gonna target the experience and the H2, and we're gonna give it a width of 30%. We're gonna give it a font weight of 300. We're gonna give it a font size of 0.9 rem. Then we're gonna target our call to action. We're gonna give it a margin top of 1.2 rem. Then we're gonna target our call to action as well as our button background. We're gonna give it a gap of 2 rem. Then we are gonna target our button background, actually button 2, sorry, and our button background. And then we're gonna give it a border radius of 0.7 rem and a border of none to remove these black lines here. Then let's copy down this code, Shift-Alt down, and we're just gonna add a class here. It's gonna be wrapper h3, and we're gonna change the properties here. Font weight, it's gonna be 600. Make it a bit bolder. Then we're gonna copy this down again. We are gonna remove the H3 here. And we are going to add project wrapper. And then inside of here, we're gonna add a transition. And if you see here, when I click something, there is a slow transition. It's not instant between blue and gray. And that is what we're adding now. And as well with the size of the button. And when I click, you see, it's also changing the size of the button. So we're giving a transition, so it's not instant when those changes happen. So the transition is gonna be transform. And it's going to take 0.3 seconds, and it's going to use something called cubic Bezier, and we're going to choose the 0.175, and then basically the third option here, or the fourth option, which is a predefined basically way of transitioning the frame rate and how it slows and speeds up during those 0.3 seconds. Let's go to our view and turn on word wrap. So that's all we needed there, and then let's target our download button. When we hover over it, when we hover over our download button here, we want the background color to be a variable call to action hover color. Awesome. Then let's target our theme button, our download button, hover, our contact button, hover, our button 2, hover, as well as our wrapper, and then image, hover, and then all of those we're going to give a cursor of pointer, so that when we hover over them they are changing to a pointer. Great, they work. It's getting closer and closer. You can zoom out a bit to see more of the real size. Then let's copy paste this one down, Shift Alt down. We can change this to simply button hover, and let's copy that down. Button to hover. We can remove these two next ones, and we can change this one to project wrapper hover and logo container a hover. And we are going to transform it. We're going to give that size change. You see when we click, it's easiest to see here when I'm on a, let's reduce the size a bit, like so. When I'm hovering over a project, you see that the image decreases in size. That's transform. So we're going to scale it to 0.98 of its original size. So when I hover now, it is not targeting up. That is because we forgot our comma here. Now it is working, as we can see. Then let's target our button and then active. That's when we click on it. Not BRN, but BTN. As well as our button to active and our project wrapper, not hover but active, and also our logo container and then a active. Let's remove that like so. And then here we are also going to transform it, scale, and then 1. So that when we are actually clicking on something, it goes back to the same size. So I'm not following the link now, I'm dragging it to not go to a new page, but you see when I hover, it decreases in size, and then I'm going to click, it goes back to its original size. That's what we're doing here. Then let's target the contact button hover as well as the download button without the hover. And we're going to give it a background color of variable button background color, turning them blue. Then let's target the contact button hover, give it a transition of background color 0.3 ease seconds, ease, and then color 0.3 ease. And that is basically deciding what are we transitioning. Well, the background color for 0.3 in an easy way, and the color 0.3 also in an easy transition, or an ease transition. And then let's target the button to hover and the active button. I'm going to give it a background color of white. Then let's target our button and our button 2 and give them a height of 3 rem. And then target our button, give it a width of 9 rem. Now we are starting to see the beauty of dry CSS, as we can style things very fast. And then button 2, width 8.5 rem, as well as our download button, we're also gonna give a transition of background color 0.3 seconds ease. Scroll down a bit, and then portfolio skills, we're gonna give it a height of 4 rem. Let's go to our skills. I'm gonna give it a margin top of 1.5 rem and a position of relative. Then we're gonna target our button, background, and our wrapper. We're also gonna add here wrapper, and we're gonna give it a width of 20 rem, which is making it look way better. Then we're going to target our article, paragraph, as well as our button BTN background color variable, and that's going to be button background light. Next thing we want to target is our hero and our portfolio, as well as our skills, and we want to give them a margin top of 2 rem. Looking good. Next we want to target our skills and say display. We want to display none by default because we are only showing the portfolio part first. Let's hide this though for now because we want to see what we're doing. So wrapper is the next thing we're targeting, and then the image inside, and we're going to give it a border radius of 1 rem. Next, we want to target our article, as well as our wrapper, and then the H3 inside of there. And we want to give it a margin bottom of 1.5 rem. Then let's target the article, and give it a flex wrap of wrap, which makes them basically wrap under each other, like so. Then the article, not area, article, and then the paragraphs, which are the skills, and we're going to give them a border radius of 0.5 rem. We're going to give it a flex grow of 20 to take the space. And we're going to give them a padding to become a bit bigger of 1 rem. Starting to look like the finished product. Then let's scroll down. We're going to target the footer. We're going to give it a margin of 3 rem 0. And then we are actually done with our normal CSS styling. Now, as we can see, if I put it back to the 100%, we have our mobile view, but we don't have our desktop view. Also, of course, this is supposed to be hidden, but we don't have the view that we see here, where these are folded under or side by side, and same here. So that's what we're going to add now. We're going to add the desktop view using something called media queries. And it's not very advanced. We just write media screen, and let's add them screen and then parentheses. We're going to say and minimum width of 900 pixels, which means that anything inside of these curly brackets is only valid when it's minimum width of 900 pixels, which if we switch to our finished portfolio, we see that up here, we see the width is changing when I decrease the screen size. And we see what happens with 900 pixels. It changes. So that's what we're doing here. Whenever we go from mobile view, which is our standard view, above 900 pixels, we change the layout of the skills page and the portfolio section, sorry. So let's just change back to our version. We are gonna give it skills and also portfolio. And we are going to say that they are going to have a flex direction of row and not column. So they're also going to have a width of 45 rem. And then the skills, we're going to give a margin of 2 rem, auto, and 0 to center them. Then we're going to target the portfolio. We're going to give it a margin of 2 rem auto, as well as a flex wrap of wrap, as well as justify content to the center to center that. And then the wrapper is going to have a width of, and then it is going to have a width, which is going to be to calculate something, 48%, as well as a flex of none, like so. Which gives us our desktop view, as we can see. I am seeing here that the skills section is not entirely lined up, as we can see here. I didn't notice that on the finished version because we're actually switching here, but I can see it now. If you see the middle line here, it's not actually lined up. So we're gonna add on our version here, we're gonna add a justify content to the center, which centers our skills section as well. And that's all. We are lacking a bit of styling on our buttons. Let's see. These are styled properly. These are styled properly. Looks to be good. If I click, we go to GitHub. That's great. Don't worry about that. We just refresh here, like so. We click, we go back, okay. Click another one, we go back, it's working. These are not clickable. Let's click our portfolio. That is not, oh yeah, that we are there. And skills we're gonna add later in our JavaScript. Contact me, it's working. Download CV, it's working. Go to LinkedIn, it's working. Okay, let's see if we can fix just the colors here that are off. We need white colors for the text. And this one is supposed to be gray by default. So let's see if we can find, that's the contact me button. Contact. If you hit Control F, contact button. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. So here I think we are supposed to have the color here of white. Let's see. Which makes me think maybe there's something in our HTML that we have miswritten, for example. Let's see. In our buttons here, here's that download. Ah, of course, both are called download button. This one is supposed to be called contact button. There we go. That looks like the finished version. And here's 2 years and the other one is 3 years, but you know, whatever. And that looks to be similar, identical even. Great, I think we are done with our styling, our style sheet. Now we can move on to our, and it's also working, to go from our desktop version to our mobile version. Then we can move on to our JavaScript file. Let's create our actual script file, script.js. And let's link that in our HTML. Under our style sheet, we're going to write script. And then inside here, we're going to add a property called source and script.js. And then after that, we're going to add our defer attribute so that it reads the HTML. It reads the entire HTML before it reads the script, or before it runs the script, so that we don't get any errors later on in our JavaScript. The first thing we're going to add is some click, like so, click events for our buttons, namely these buttons here. Actually, these two. And the way we're going to do that is we are going to create or we're going to reference these buttons in our JavaScript first and foremost, and then we're going to reference the skill page and the portfolio page so that when we click these two here, something actually happens. And we're going to change the class. We're going to remove the active class from this portfolio button, and we're going to add it to the skill button when we click it. So how do we do that? Well, first we define the constant, and we say that's going to be our portfolio, and that's going to be our portfolio section. And we get a hold of this section by typing document get element by ID, and then we're going to go into our HTML and we're going to see, let's see, portfolio here. The section of portfolio is ID portfolio, so easy enough. So we're going to get a hold of the, and we have to use quotation marks here, portfolio, not S, portfolio. And also let's turn on the word wrap here. To test if we are doing this correctly, we're going to console log our new constant that we just made, hit save, and then when we inspect the page here and we click the console here, we see that it console logged exactly what we thought it would, the portfolio section with all its parts. So this is working. If I comment out that, we see it disappears, comment it back in, it appears. So it is working. I want to add a couple of more constants here. The next thing I want to get a hold of is the portfolio button. So this button to actually change to the portfolio. And it's going to be the same thing here. Document get element by ID. We're going to use strings here. And then portfolio btn, which is the ID of this one. Let's copy this down, because we're going to target the skills and also skills, like so. This one should say skills button. We are using camel casing here, which means we start our words with a lowercase, and then for the second word we uppercase it. Now what do we do with this? Well, we are going to create something called a click event. So we're going to target the portfolio button, we're going to say add event listener. And what are we going to listen for? Well, we're going to listen for a click. And when that event happens, that click event, let's also put that in parentheses. When that event happens, what's going to happen? Well, we are going to run some code. We're going to say skills. Remember, we're targeting these things now here that we just made. So we're going to say skills. That's this whole part that we see here in the finished product. That's this part. We're going to say skills, go into that part, go into your style, go into your display property, which we see here. If I search display, you see that the skills has a display of flex. But if we're clicking the portfolio section, we want to set that equal to none, because we want to hide it when we click the portfolio, and vice versa, we want to hide portfolio when we click skills. But let's do one step at a time. Could not find skills. We have misspelled it up here. Skills. Let's be sure to fix that. Like so. The next thing we want to do is we want to go to the portfolio and the style there and the display, and we want to set that to flex in case it was hidden in the past. And then also we want to target the skills button. We want to go into the class list and we want to remove the active button class, which this one has. And then we want to copy paste this down. We're going to say portfolio button class list add button. Okay, so when we click this portfolio button, we are adding this active class. It already has it by default, but in case we were on the skill, you can show that on the finished version here. Now we're on the skill, we click on the portfolio, the active button class is added, it's removed from the skill button, and also the sections have gotten a flex or gotten a none display. Cool. Now let's do the same for the other button. We're just going to copy paste this down, Shift Alt down. We're going to change the portfolio button, Control D, and we're going to say skill button instead. And here we're just going to change them. Skills is going to be portfolio, and this one is going to be skills, and then this one is going to be portfolio button instead. Let's see if it works. So we're on our current project. Hit this one. It is changing the view and it is adding the active class. How cool is that? Then we are done with the click events. We are just gonna add one more thing in JavaScript, and that is to control the light and the dark mode, because now I'm clicking here and nothing is happening. So we're gonna add our light and dark mode here, and we are gonna do similar document, and we're gonna add an event listener just to the document, and we're gonna listen on the DOM content loaded, which is basically the whole website. And we are going to run an arrow function like we did up there. And we are going to say const. We're going to create our constants in here. Toggle theme button equal to document get element by ID and that is going to be the toggle theme, which is the ID of this button here. Then let's copy paste this down one time, change the name here, theme icon, and then document, and here we're going to use query selector all to target all the theme icons, that is these icons, because we have to use that to target several elements at once. And here we're going to go into the image. Actually, let's use single quotation marks first. Image, we're going to go into the alt of the image, like so, which is equal to theme icon. And then let's remember to put the theme icon in double quotation marks. So it's a bit of a tricky writing, but basically we're selecting all the images with the theme icon as their alt description, which is basically this one. Actually, it's only one, so we are just using query selector because it's only one single icon. Let's now copy paste this down 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Once for each of the icons here. So the next one is going to be GitHub logo. Second one, LinkedIn logo. And email logo. And here it's going to be not theme, but GitHub, LinkedIn, and email, like so. Then the next thing we're gonna create is constant for the light versions of these logos. And this is where we're referencing the light versions we have in our asset folder here. So this is the light version and this is the dark version. We are going to reference them here because we're going to use it to switch between them. So for the GitHub, we are going to say, where is it stored? Well, it's stored in the asset folder / GitHub, not GitHub, GitHub underscore light dot png. And then we're gonna Control Shift or Shift Alt down 3 times. Next one is gonna be called LinkedIn, and LinkedIn, and then Control D to target the next instance, email, and then Control D, theme. There we go. We can copy paste this one down, Shift Alt down, and we're going to change the light, Control D, to target all of them, to dark. Then we're going to create the actual function to set the theme. And we're going to take an argument here that is called isDark, because we are going to use this function based on if it's the dark mode, we're going to switch it to light mode, and if it's not dark mode, it means light mode, and we're going to switch it to dark mode. So in that case, GitHub logo, we're going to say source, and then we're going to ask, is it dark mode? So we're saying we're going to set GitHub logo source, which if we go to our HTML, we see when we have, let's see, when we have an image, we have a source. So we're setting the path for the image. We're setting the path for this GitHub logo. And we're basing it on a question here. If GitHub logo is dark, then we want it to be darklogos.github. Because if we go to dark logos, GitHub, then that's this path. And if it's not dark, if isDark is false, then what is it gonna be? Well, it's gonna be light logos dot GitHub. You guessed it. And that's what we're gonna do for all of them. So 1, 2, 3. We're gonna target the GitHub. And we are gonna say LinkedIn instead. And then we're gonna target Control D, email. And then also Control D, theme. Then finally we are gonna call this function we made, set theme, and we are gonna give it the isDark argument. So where is this isDark coming from? Well, we are gonna create it now. Const load theme, because if we are visiting this site more than once, we want to also save this theme in our browser. As you see here, if I change the theme and I reload the web page, you see the theme stays the same. If I change it back to light mode, I reload, and the browser has remembered my theme preference. If we go to application here, we see there's a local storage here. We see the test site mini Netlify, that's our site. And we see isDark is saved in our local storage. If I change it here, we see it's saved to true. So isDark is what is called the Boolean value, which can be true or false. And we see it switches between them when we switch our website. So that's what we're creating now. So in our const load theme, we are creating another function, an arrow function. And inside here, we are creating the isDark variable. And we are setting it equal to local storage get item isDark. And then we are setting it, we are asking it, is it true? So if this is true, if dark is equal to true already, which means we've changed it to dark mode, then isDark is simply going to be true, it's dark. If it's not true, it means that it doesn't exist, so it means isDark is false. By default, it's going to start as false if we haven't set it to true. So then we're going to say document body class list toggle, and then we are basically giving our whole body element the dark theme based on if isDark is true or not. Remember, that's what we created in the top here, dark theme. So if isDark variable is true, then this dark theme is applied. If not, then the light theme is applied. And then we need to initialize this by calling the setTheme and giving it the isDark variable. And then to make sure that when the visitor, let's actually check it first. We need to put that inside of our const here, setTheme. Nothing is happening. Let's load our theme as well. nothing is happening, and we are probably getting an error. Is dark is not defined. Is dark is not defined at 50, which is here. Of course, because we have to have this actually inside. Oh, we forgot to actually create our toggle theme function. Of course, we need the function to actually toggle the theme. So we're going to create that now. Toggle theme button, add event listener. When we click on this button, like so, we are going to run a function. We are going to initialize const is dark, and it's going to be equal to document dot body dot class list dot toggle dark theme. So when we click, we are going to toggle the dark theme on or off, and then we're going to set local storage. We're going to set the item. We're going to basically create this in the local storage. Is dark. It's going to be called, and it's going to be based on the value is dark. So now also we've moved this set theme inside of here. Save that. We are getting another error on 58 here. Saying get item is not a function. We have misspelled get item, capital I. Cannot set properties, another script error, 44. Let's see, cannot set properties. GitHub logo source is dark, dark logos. GitHub, what is the matter? GitHub, yeah. Or light logos GitHub, that looks correct. Capital L and capital L. Light logos. Also, let's change those to capital. I wrote those wrong. Dark logos, capital, 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 capital L, capital L, capital L. We are getting there. 44. GitHub logo source. Dark logos, GitHub. Light logos, GitHub. That is looking correct. Cannot set properties of null. We see we have an error here. We are changing our dark mode, light mode, but we are getting cannot set properties of null. So have we done something? Have we written something wrong here? Asset. Yes, we have written assets wrong. It's supposed to be assets, not asset. Assets. Save that. I think, yeah, assets. Okay, that was not the mistake. There are several. let's see, in the source here, so it's line 44, which is the GitHub logo. So that makes me think it's something with the GitHub here, image, alt, let's see, image, and then alt equals GitHub logo. It looks to be query selector, document, const, GitHub logo icon. Oh, wait a minute. If we go to our actual HTML, what do we call that? GitHub logo. And here we called it GitHub icon. That is why. Probably. 1, 2, 3, Control D, change that to logo. Theme icon, I think, is theme icon, like so. Save that. The errors seem to disappear. The icons are changing colors. And I think we corrected all the mistakes. If we switch to dark mode here on skills, it works. Switch back and forth, it works. We can switch between, we can make it full screen. It is working very well. And with that, I think that we have finished our website. Awesome. So let's go to netlify.com. If you don't already have an account, then sign up with your GitHub or email. When you log in, you're going to see a page a bit like this. You're going to add a new site. You're going to deploy manually. And then the only thing left to do is actually to take that folder that you created in the start and just drop it in there. Then, when we are on Netlify, we're going to see that it's basically going to do everything on its own. Then you're going to see when you click on Site Overview, you're going to have a new URL. If you click that, we see our finished site hosted live on the internet with its own URL. It's a bit of a difficult URL to write and share, so we can go to domain settings. We can go to options here, edit site name, and we can call that my portfolio mini version. You can call it whatever you want, save that, and now we see, if we go to site overview, that's the new URL we can share and use. So I hope you liked this video. You can find the reference code in the description below, as always. Let me know in the comments what you liked, what you would like to see in the future. And if you like this video, then I can highly suggest the next video that is recommended for you and suggested for you right here. Until next time, see ya.